Yeah,
And it's
I
also
have a
extremely
plan.
important for you to have a plan to get to your goal, which is your reemployment. Because if you don't have a written plan, if you don't have a plan that you can make reference to, and it's just in your head, then let me just admit, along with all the other things that you're stressed out about in trying to find a job opportunity, it's going to be difficult for you to execute. So let's talk about step one. It says develop a targeted resume and marketing letter. So the marketing letter is the cover letter, and I just want to make a reference to this step number one, that you must have a unique resume for every job opportunity. We cannot have the same master resume, or what we call the generic resume, that we send out for each job opportunity, because today your resume is being scanned by software, or it is being looked at very carefully to make sure that the content of your resume matches the job requirements of the job opportunity. Now, you may be able to send a master resume out without tweaking it, without tailoring it to a specific job opportunity, because that job opportunity may not require intense strengths or abilities or specialization in your previous employment, as far as your experience or probably education. And so, whoever is reviewing that resume, chances are it will not be software, will actually just make an assumption that you can probably do this job and bring you in for the interview. But the intent of the resume is to get you to the interview. And many jobs today, because of the competitive nature of the market, are being written with a lot of requirements. So when the employer posts a job description on the internet, typically on the internet, that's where you find them, they're going to identify within that job description, I'm sorry, job opportunity, a job description. And that job description is what the employer wants the candidate to have. And that job description will identify things like strengths, um, abilities, accomplishments, previous work experience, certain skill sets, perhaps education, etc. A lot of that is described in the job description of the employment opportunity. So when you are going to apply, if you want to get to the interview, you need to align your resume to convince them that you have everything that they're asking for, so you can put yourself in front of them and do the interview. So we call this a targeted resume. And how do we create this? Well, we look at the job opportunity and we look at the job description, whatever the employer is asking for, and we extract the key requirements from that job description. And we call those keywords, okay? They're not necessarily one word, they could be multiple words, but we call them keywords. And those main requirements are put aside, and then we look at our master resume and reorganize our master resume to include a lot of what the employer is asking for. If we know how to do that, we don't just drop everything that the employer is asking for into our resume if we cannot do it, because that would be considered to be, a little bit of embellishment, or perhaps, I wouldn't call it fraud, but certainly it's misrepresentation of your qualities. Um, and the reason why we don't want to do that is that even if you get to the interview by doing that, when you're at the interview, they're going to eventually find out based on their questioning that you don't have these skills or achievements or things like that. So that would be very embarrassing. Okay, so we must create a unique resume for every job opportunity. All right, and that unique resume can easily be done today using artificial intelligence. This is what we're going to be talking about at the end of the presentation. And the artificial intelligence tool that we're actually going to talk about are ChatGPT, Microsoft Copilot, or Google Gemini. We're not going to go in depth, but I'm going to identify that we should be using these tools to create our documentation. And the reason why we should be is because we can ask the tool to recreate our resume for us by loading the actual job opportunity or job description, and then loading our master resume. And of course, within seconds, it will recreate our new resume to match that job opportunity so that we can then send it on. So it's important that you create this targeted resume. Okay. Now, additionally, beside the targeted resume, you're going to create what we call the marketing letter, which is a cover letter. Very important that you have a cover letter that you send along with the resume today for every job opportunity. And so, how do we create this cover letter? Well, many times you could actually look at what's involved in a cover letter, and if we were not using artificial intelligence, we would look at samples on the internet, and we would actually do copying and pasting, or we would rewrite it, or however you wanted to create this cover letter. And the cover letter is a professional letter that introduces you to the employer, identifies how you heard about the opportunity, identifies your strengths and your achievements and your accomplishments and all the great things that you have that may not be in your resume, but certainly help to sell you to the job opportunity. And then, of course, um, you'd also be asking within that cover letter, telling the employer within that cover letter to make reference to your resume to back up what you're saying. And then, in conclusion of the cover letter, the intent is to ask the employer for an interview. Okay, so it's a professional letter that's typically sits on one page, very well written, and it is uniquely crafted to the job opportunity based on your resume or your credentials. So going forward, if you want to secure employment opportunities or certainly get to the interview, you must develop the targeted resume and marketing letter. And all of this can be done by our new friend in the neighborhood, our trusted, what I call trusted AI tool, ChatGPT, Microsoft Copilot, or Google Gemini. Okay, very, very super intelligent tool set, more intelligent than humans, that can be your career coach, can be your assistant, can be your mentor, can be your friend, can open up opportunities for you, not only with employment, but many other things, can teach you, can help you learn additional skill sets and whatever, okay? I mean, they're using AI today for kindergarten children, where the teachers are just supervisors and the actual AI is actually doing the teaching. And the children are actually becoming super intelligent within the first several months, okay? So step number 2, develop a targeted list of companies. And why is this important? It's really important that we develop a targeted list of companies, because when we think about our job search or career search, or what we call the career transition, we have to have a strategy. And so the strategy is understanding where the jobs are in the market. There are two markets that are present in any economy, and including in the United States. There is what we call the visible job market, and there is a hidden job market. The visible job market are the jobs that exist in the job boards, such as Indeed, Career Builder, Monster, Craigslist, etc., and the jobs that exist on the company website. In other words, if you um, link it to a company and you look at their career section, you see the jobs that are posted. So those are what we call the visible jobs available, okay? Or perhaps the jobs that are advertised in some kind of newspaper or forum or something like that, or even on the internet, okay? Perhaps the jobs that are advertised through social media, all right, such as LinkedIn or TikTok, or it's amazing that TikTok even does this, but Instagram, X, formerly Twitter, and things like that, okay? So the social media um, platforms also have their job search engines and jobs, because employers use that, okay? But there's a hidden job market, and the hidden job market are the jobs that are available by through companies, but the companies don't advertise them. The companies contract a staffing agent or dedicated recruiters to go ahead and find the clients and send them to the companies for the interviews. These jobs that the companies have in the hidden job market that the staffing agencies control are not released to the general public. It's a hidden database, and it's quite secure. In other words, it's not available for public consumption through any kind of, AI job search method, because it's a restricted database. And why do companies do that? Okay, so what happens is that with technology, and even before AI, um, companies start to get a lot of job applications and resumes sent to them, that were extremely well written, but because the companies were marketing themselves using technology, then a lot more people started applying for jobs at their companies. And a lot of these jobs that were being applied for by individuals, those individuals didn't necessarily want to work for the company. They were just basically searching and feeling out the industry. So the companies start to become really overwhelmed with all these job applications and individuals who said they wanted to work for the company. They would spend all their time, get them in for the interview after, doing their research on the individual, only to find out that the individual wasn't serious, or they walked away and took another job opportunity, etc., etc., etc. So it became very apparent with a lot of these corporations or companies, or even small companies, that they were not set up or structured to have their internal staffing agency or agents find employees for them. So they decided to outsource it and give it to people that were dedicated, that had their own institutions set up to do exactly this. And so staffing agencies became born, okay? And they were created specifically for working with employers. So how do the staffing agencies find you? How do they actually find the potential client to send to the employer, for the job interview? Well, they find you, the people that are ready to go back into the workforce or to find another opportunity, through multiple ways. They typically use social media to find you, either through your online profile that may exist on LinkedIn, that may exist on X, that may exist on MySpace, or sorry, not MySpace, Facebook, that may exist on Instagram, etc. So you're marketing yourself through your social media profile. And they also find you through having job fairs and things like that. They also find you through word of mouth, etc., etc. So staffing agencies, and specialized recruiters control the hidden job market. And so why is this important? Because the hidden job market consists of 50% to 60% of all jobs out there. What you see on the job boards, or what we would say is only 40% of the job market, most of those jobs on the job boards are either duplicated on the different job boards, or they may not exist. In other words, they exist, as far as you finding them, but they're not open. They're closed. They're already being filled, and it's up to the employer to take those job opportunities off the job board. It's not up to the job board, but the employers choose to leave those jobs available on the job boards because it's a marketing method. In other words, it sends a signal to people who are in the market, excuse me, looking for jobs, to identify that, wow, this company is expanding, this company is hiring, so they must be a really good company. So it's a marketing ploy that companies have been doing for a long time. And so when you are applying to the job boards for jobs, remember, you're going for typically one job, and that job probably has over uh, 1,000, possibly even 10,000 applications just for one single job. So you're now becoming extremely, um, probably, not only are you competing, but you're becoming less important, because there's just so many other people going after that one job. And so as a result of that, also, and the fact that the jobs are probably closed or don't exist, you keep applying to these jobs on the job boards, hoping for you to get an interview, and in many cases you don't, and you wonder why. That's because, as I mentioned, most of those jobs are closed. They're in the process of being closed, they've already been filled, but they're not taken down. And so the question is, when we look at step number 2, develop a targeted list of companies, why is this important? Because we're going to use a different type of strategy to go after the hidden job market. In other words, we want to penetrate the market where we know the companies um, uh, or the company positions do exist and are available. And we will do that through making a list of the companies that we'd like to work for. And then we will try and find the most important people who are decision makers inside that company to try and reach out to them and secure an employment opportunity. And how do we do that? Okay, we do that through what we call networking. So networking is the ability for you to reach out to individuals in person or possibly through social media. We so we can do that through a social media professional job search engine like LinkedIn. So we can reach out to the companies to find the decision makers so we can then contact them and solicit ourselves, asking them for a potential job interview so that we can then sell ourselves to the company and also find out what available jobs exist. Now, when we go to a job fair, this is pretty much, what we're doing. We're going to the job fair and we're seeking out individual companies that we'd like to work for. And that's how the companies are selling themselves. And those companies at the job fairs are predominantly marketing their hidden jobs or the jobs that are hidden. Okay, the representative at those companies may actually identify that this is their published list, but if you start to actually talk to them and get to know these representatives and secure some kind of a meeting, or if informal or formal meeting where you can then reach out to them and discuss how you'd like to work for their company, you will find out that these representatives also know of all the hidden jobs, okay, within their company. So it's important for you to target the companies that you'd like to work for first. Remember, this is a step-by-step process that you're creating, which is your plan for you to march into your job search in a productive format. Now, once you identify the list of companies, for all the reasons I just talked to you about, because the job, if you're going to keep applying for jobs through the job boards and you're not getting any hits, you're not getting any interviews, then you need to change your strategy. All right. So the strategy is go for the visible jobs, which is the jobs on the job boards that might not actually be real, or go for the jobs in a hidden job market. It will take time. It will take a little bit more effort, which is called networking, but we know that those jobs are real because they're being referred to us by individuals who know that the jobs do exist. So when we're networking and when we're making our targeted list of companies and when we're identifying the company contacts of those targeted list of companies, we're reaching out to people, asking them to let us know of what opportunities exist, either in the company they work for or through a company that they know of, right? And by asking people to do that, we can have some kind of self-assurance that those jobs actually do exist. So we're not going to waste our time. Now, does it mean you're going to get the interview? I don't know. It depends on how well you market yourself. But it is a strategy that you need to start using to secure the good jobs, to secure the jobs that are well paid. Typically, what will happen to most of us, and I'm very familiar with this process, is that if we just target applying for jobs on the job boards, which is at the, Indeed, Career Builder, etc., and keep hoping for some kind of hit, and that we never get it, then we start actually targeting lower level jobs, and we get very frustrated and we get very scared, and we go after the jobs that are predominantly beneath us, and we take lower paid salaries. When you do that, now you're going to get stuck. You're going to get stuck in a career path that is predominantly not um, not necessarily well paid and with very little growth impact. So if you are an individual that um, is in a career and not just looking for a job that used to command good salaries, and good salaries are hard to come by these days, and possibly you're willing to
Say that again.
relocate or you're possibly willing to take a risk, then you're going to have to work really hard to find these jobs in the hidden job market through your networking. Okay, so when we utilize effective job search methods such as step 4, these job search methods that we're talking about are the two methods: applying either to the job boards, um, which is what we typically will always do, or we will keep doing because we're not going to give up that channel. But you're going to also utilize a different type of job search method, which is networking. And networking is really, really important because if you don't networking, okay, so networking, let me just remind you again what networking is. Networking is your solicitation with individuals by speaking to them, by communicating them, um, being like a detective to find out what jobs are available either through the people that they know or the companies they know or possibly in their own company. So networking can be in person, where you physically go to like a job fair, that's networking, or you go to a social event that could be your place of worship,
Right.
or it could be a party, it could be an event, it could be a community gathering, it could be somewhere inside your city council. Uh, it can be anywhere as long as you're talking to individuals and your intent is to request information from them because you're in career transition and you want to ask them to help you find the opportunities. That is networking. So you can do it in person or you can do it online. Online, you will typically do it through social media and a very reputable social media platform like LinkedIn. Okay, so you're going to utilize this new search method to find out where these jobs are. Now, how do we do step 5, which is implementing meaningful network strategies? Okay, so when we start networking, you have to focus on quality of meeting people of quality and not quantity. So when you're networking and trying to find these jobs, you're not going to just touch everyone. You're going to find out who the people are that know where these opportunities may exist. So you're setting up a unique relationship or a genuine relationship, um, either through meeting individuals or actually engaging in a strategy when you are either online or offline. And this network strategy becomes really important because if you don't execute it well, you're going to end up losing a lot of time and actually wasting your time during this strategy of finding jobs. Now, when we network, it doesn't mean that you can start networking this week and by the end of the week you have a job. It doesn't work that way. You're building relationships. You're basically using people to find you jobs. Okay? So if you want to be very good at networking, you have to be able to set clear goals when you speak to people. So you have to be able to understand what industries that you're going after. You have to understand what are the jobs that you can do. You have to be able to communicate that well, because if you don't have a what we call a sales pitch or a strategy to convince them to help you, then they're just going to believe that you're wasting their time and you're just doing a lot of talk. So before you go to an event such as a job fair, um, or a possible place of worship where you're going to market yourself, or a community event, you need to identify how you're going to set up and execute your network, right? So what you're going to do is you must have a very, very strong verbal message. So you also have to have the ability to organize your thoughts and communicate very clearly what your intent is when you speak to these individuals, okay? So you'll have to organize your thoughts. You'll have to understand who your audience is. That makes a big difference as far as how you speak to them. You have to have your defined goals set. You have to think about not only what information is required for you, but what is it in it for them. Okay, so let me open up the chat. Okay, so Millicent said, "Hi Michael, do you think that jobs on LinkedIn is real?" Predominantly, yes, and I'll explain how that works. So, what happens with LinkedIn is a social media platform, a professional job search social media platform that is built on integrity. So, when employers use LinkedIn to post their jobs, they are challenged to be held at a much higher uh, um, integrity than what the job boards offer. Okay, so an employer can approach a job board and set up a contract because they pay the job board and say, I'd like to post these jobs to apply to acquire my talent, etc., etc. And the job board, which is predominantly automated now, will say, no problem, you will pay your fee, you will advertise your job, it will be XYZ, it will cost you XYZ for so much time, etc., etc., etc. Okay, and then of course the employer can pay more money if they want to prioritize their available jobs. Okay, as far as you know, which ones do you see first when you go into your Indeed search engine? Now with LinkedIn, it's different. LinkedIn has, even though it's highly automated as well, LinkedIn is based on integrity. So when the employer approaches LinkedIn and says, I'd like to use your platform to actually, uh, I'm okay, indeed, I'm sorry, sometimes I can't tell. Okay, so that's what Sandiola says. Okay, I'll get to that. So when the employer approaches LinkedIn, um, they will work with LinkedIn, and the LinkedIn contractors will identify the strict requirements that they have, that they are aware of what employers do as far as using search engines or job boards to market their company, that they are aware of employers holding jobs as still open and not filled to help sell their company. And so LinkedIn makes this very clear to the employer that if they are caught doing that, they will be banned from the platform. So they'll never be able to post any more job opportunities on their platform. It doesn't mean that they're only given a warning and they get to stay away for like 30 days or something like that. They are totally banned. They're no longer allowed to come onto the LinkedIn platform. And that's because LinkedIn is structured as an integrity, is a professional job search social media platform of integrity. If all of us who use LinkedIn should believe that employers are using that platform to play the game like they do on social media, then we would never use LinkedIn again. So we just goes elsewhere, okay, or take a chance. So that's the reason why I believe that the jobs on LinkedIn are true. Now, does it mean that we don't have some kind of fraud or you know uh, suspicious activity happening on the platform? It's quite possible we do, but they do a very good job of looking at these individuals or looking at this information. So if you come across any suspicious activity where a company seems to be possibly fraudulent, or that you're sending your information out but you're not getting anything back, you'll contact LinkedIn, okay? But I'm kind of deviating, so let me continue forward on this, okay? Um, yes, okay, so um, jobs on the job board, such as Indeed, etc., um, are typically, it's not that we should not be careful. We should be careful about every company that we apply to. We must do our research and make sure that they are real and not fictitious or fraudulent. Okay, so let me sum up this step by step because I've spent so much time on this. Um, that's not your problem. That's my problem. So you need to prepare this verbal message so you can sell yourself. And so, what is this verbal message that we're talking about? Well, that's what we call the sales pitch. Okay, and the sales pitch is a rehearsed um, uh, summary, perhaps several sentences that we put together that introduces us to the individual, to identify, you know, why we'd like to speak to them, what kind of abilities or skill sets we have, why it's important that they you get to work with them, or why you would like them to work with you to help you penetrate the job market, and possibly some other things like how you heard about them and things like that. But there's also a trade-off too in the sales pitch when you speak with these individuals to try and get information from them, that there has to be some benefit in it for them as well. And so it's how you present the information, or the sales pitch, that's important. So we're going to talk about that in a minute. When you create the sales pitch, it's going to be delivered in between, say, 7 seconds and 15 seconds, right? And we'll show you how that's done. Okay, so moving forward, how do we actually start networking, and how do we get to introduce ourselves? Well, one of the most important thing is you must be likable. All right, and so the likability factor becomes really, really important, because if you're not likable, if you're not charismatic, if you're not always smiling, if you're not approachable, when you're trying to network your way into group settings, it's not so much on social media, unless you have a really bad way of communicating, um, on um, in through technology. But when you're doing it in person, you have to come across as being someone who is approachable, and you have to come across as someone who is passionate and know where they're going, okay, in their career transition. So the likability factor becomes really, really important. And what influences the likability factor? Well, the soft skills influence the likability factor. So soft skills are the skills which are basically um, um, created um, by you as you grow through you and mature through your age. And so they are basically a combination of emotional, cognitive, and other skills as it relates to you operating in a workplace or interacting with other people professionally. Okay, so would if we should identify what type of soft skills are important for certain type of job opportunities, we could go into the internet and we could say, office administration soft skills, and it will tell you all the type of soft skills that are important to do that job. Or you could say, accounting soft skills, or any kind of job description to find out job description to find out what soft skills are required for that opportunity, okay, or for that type of work environment. And so being likable means also that you have to have a lot of very good social soft skills and emotional soft skills and cognitive soft skills. All right, so you need to have very good communication skills. You have to be very good at speaking, active listening. You have to have very good team work skills, and you have to have other important skills that will add to your likability factor. All right, so a lot of the skills that are typically associated with the likability factor are what we would call interpersonal skills. All right, and that's a type of soft skill. So if you are concerned about the likability factor for your networking and you want to be absolutely sure about what kind of skills are required, then you could go on the internet and you could say interpersonal skills, or you could say networking skills required for in-person communication, and then it will tell you all the skills that are required for that. And a lot of those skills are predominantly going to be soft skills, or they're going to be what we call transferable skills, but more than likely they will be interpersonal skills. Okay, so So let's move on and talk about these skills, transferable skills. So transferable skills are the general skills that you apply to a variety of jobs and career as you move through your employment spectrum. And transferable skills become really important now in your career search, because not only is it necessary to have on your resume, but it is also necessary for you to sell yourself when you're networking, when you're talking to people. So part of your sales pitch would be that, the structure of the sales pitch that we spoke about. This is your introductory thing that you memorize, that you create and memorize, that you deliver anywhere from, say, 7 seconds to 15 seconds. So part of that sales pitch that you create, where you introduce yourself to someone and that you identify all of your skills and abilities as it relates to the career path that you're seeking, a lot of those skills and abilities are what we call transferable skills. And transferable skills are basically created from working with people, created from working with data and with things and with technology or ideas. Okay, so we will get to the sales pitch in a minute, but we would be using transferable skills to create this sales pitch. All right. So the structure of the sales pitch is you introduce yourself to the individual. So this could be a job fair setting. You approach someone at the booth who's a representative of the company. You want to find out what type of job opportunities exist in the company that are not being advertised, the hidden job market, and you would introduce yourself. So this is your sales pitch. You'd introduce yourself. You'd identify very, in a small package, what your skills and your abilities, your transferable skills, your interpersonal skills are, and how you believe it would be aligned to their corporation. Give me one sec. Okay, it says, Miss Innocent, hi Michael. When you're done with this part, can you please tell me about ZipRecruiter? Okay, we can talk about that afterwards. Miss Innocent, ZipRecruiter is just a very sophisticated recruiting company that is extremely, very, very good, actually. And you can utilize it to seek employment opportunities like any other recruiting company, but it is one of the best. Okay, so with the soft skill, you're going to introduce yourself. You're going to identify your transferable skills and how it may be aligned with their company, because you've done the research on their company, and why you believe that you'd be a perfect fit for a lot of the employment opportunities that may exist within your corporation. And you'd like to also ask them to tell me a little bit, ask them to tell you a little bit about what employment opportunities exist in their company, right? So typically that's how you'd approach someone. Give me one sec. You'd approach someone at a job fair with your sales pitch. Okay, so transferable skills are basically structured in under two categories. We call them business skills, or we call them technology skills. So business skills is a combination of mainly soft skills, but it can also be a little bit of hard skills as well. But predominantly business skills or soft skills. So on the slide here, these are typically business skills. I really think that it says transferable skills, business skills. I would really say that this is really more like soft skills, but let's not really get into difference of wording. The most important thing is that these are transferable skills that are highly required in most jobs today. So when you're networking and you're selling yourself to others, and they're asking about, why do you believe that you'd be a good fit for our company? All right. So this is, this is not a formal interview that we're doing, right? So this is like you having a discussion with individuals at a job fair or at a social event, or you're reaching out and you're trying to get a lot of information and convince them to help you. You definitely will. I always identify that you have very, very good communication skills, and that you have very good organization skills, and you have very good time management skills. Those three are the key skills that all employers want to hear. Communication communication, organization, and time management. They pretty much drive a lot of the need for companies to secure good employees. Okay, so these are transferable skills. And now, if we look at the next slide, which we call technical skills. So the other one was business skills. These are technical skills. So technical skills are like the hard skills. Okay, they are the skills that you are very proficient in and that you either learn through formal education or on the job. So these are like you being able to utilize Microsoft Office Suite, you being able to utilize QuickBooks. You may be very good at accounting. You may be very good in software. You may be very good in web development. You may be very good at using SAP, all right, or Salesforce. You may be very good in data analysts. Okay, so these are the technical skills. So it's a lot of information to grasp what we're kind of delivering on this slide deck. But the most important thing is to drive home with you that in order for you to network, you need to do a self assessment and understand what are your skills, what are all your soft skills, and what are all your hard skills that you're good at, because this is you marketing yourself and convincing the person that you're talking to, or possibly the company, even at the interview, why you are talented and that you have a lot of good value to sell them. Now, additionally, to your skills that you offer individuals through networking or the company in an interview, you have to also be able to list your accomplishments. And these are the things that you have achieved in your past jobs. And it could be how you made money for the company, or how you retained your customer base, or how you helped the company build new relationships, or how you helped the company stay competitive, or how you help the company resolve certain problems. Okay, when we interview, when we solicit ourselves and we're asking individuals to consider us for an interview to work at their company, because remember, we're going after the hidden job market here now. We need to convince them not only do we have the skills and the abilities and the education and the previous experience, but we have a lot of accomplishments that we performed in the previous companies that we can bring to their companies. And that's why employers hire individuals that can talk about themselves well. So in other words, if you're in sales and marketing, you typically have the ability to sell yourself very easily, because that is your forte. You can talk and you can you can present information and try and do a very good job of trying to convince the individual to listen to you, to believe in you, to agree with you that you have whatever you're trying to sell them. So when we're networking, it's the same thing. You're selling yourself, you're marketing yourself, and you're showing them your value. And so it's not just about your skills, it's not just about your education, it's what you did previously in another job that you can do for them as well. So the accomplishments become really, really important, and you need to have like a portfolio set up where you list all of these accomplishments so that you can talk about them. Okay, so when we attach or when we talk about accomplishment statements, we're going to typically attach a benefit to that accomplishment, which is a result. All right, so when we talk about our accomplishments in a previous job, we want to talk about the results, the positive results, the measurable improvements, what value we brought to the company, possibly new opportunities or a return on their investment. This is what potential recruiters and staffing agents want to hear, that you can do these things for the companies that they're representing. Okay, it makes you more marketable, and it will allow them to believe in you, that they should spend the time to groom you for the job interview with their company, or not their company, but with their employer, who is their more or less business partner. Okay, so when we go to staffing agencies or we go to recruiters, recruiters, they don't just find the job and then send us off. They spend a lot of time investing in us by speaking to us, by redoing our resume, by taking us through mock interviews, by grooming us, by setting us up to be highly successful in with the employer that they're going to send you to. That's really the power behind staffing agencies. So who pays them? The employer pays them. You don't pay them. Now, if it's a recruiter, you might pay them. That's a contract that you set up with the recruiter. Not all recruiters charge you or ask you for a fee. Sometimes those recruiters work directly with a company to recruit you, but a lot of times those recruiters will be general recruiters, meaning that they'll set up a contract with you to find you a job opportunity, and when they do, um, then you'll be paying them a portion of your salary, right? But staffing agencies get paid directly by the company, the employer that they work indirectly for. Okay, so your sales pitch, we talked about that earlier. So when you're creating your sales pitch, you're basically giving a brief walkthrough of your career story. So this is you talking to someone at a job fair to impress them that you'd like them to invite you into a formal interview. So you can then tell them all the great things about yourself. So the introductory statement that you have, which is your sales pitch, you deliver anywhere from 7 seconds to 15 seconds, is who you are, what type of job you're looking for in their company, right? Why you believe that you're so good. Those are all your skills, your abilities, your accomplishments, and all the great stuff that makes you so valuable. And then, of course, you will then identify what is it that you want from speaking to them. And what you want is an opportunity to meet with a decision maker in an interview setting. So you can then formally identify to them why they should hire you. And you don't know what jobs are available, but you don't really care so much about that. You just want to get into that company because you've already researched the company and you believe that this is the industry that you'd like to work for. Okay, so when you are talking to these individuals, remember what we're talking about is a hidden job market, which is 50 to 60% of the jobs that exist out there that are not advertised but controlled by staffing agencies or representatives at job fairs for that company. Okay, so along with the sales pitch, or along with um, the resume, um, we must have what we call a cover letter. All right, so remember that sequence is that when we're doing our um, career transition, in other words, when we're seeking employment opportunities, we must have a resume, we must have a cover letter, we must have a sales pitch to network our way in. So the cover letter on this slide is a formal document that we spoke about earlier of typically 3 or 4 paragraphs. So the first paragraph, you're going to introduce yourself, you're going to identify how you heard about the opening or the job opportunity, why you would like to work for them. And then the second paragraph is you're going to make reference to your resume and all the skills that you have that they need because you've already researched the company and know the job opportunity that may exist or you heard about it. And then, of course, all the value that you can bring to their organization. And this is typically done through your accomplishments, okay? And then the third paragraph is asking them for the interview and identify how you'll follow up. And then, of course, you have your closing salutation at the bottom, which is your contact information. All right. We don't really have a lot of information on this slide deck about a cover letter because we're going to more or less identify how we can easily create that. Either we research it on the internet or we're going to use AI to create it. Okay. So networking, remember, is about looking for people, not jobs, but we're looking for people to help us find these jobs. All right, so we network in person, through social media, using professional organizations like LinkedIn, which we spoke about, and then we can also do what we call informational interviewing. That is where you're like a detective and you're basically talking to a lot of people, finding out information. So that this is leads that you're actually securing. Okay, so remember that networking is either in person or online. Okay, so it's offline or online. Online is through social media, offline is in person, right? So typically that's how we network. Now, in the past, when we actually looked for jobs, we would depend on what you see on the slide. All of these different, you know, companies or um, institutions. All right. So at some time ago, especially when I was let go in 2009, my first time I was ever downsized and actually laid off was in the big dot com. In my previous profession, I was in very well positioned high tech corporations outside of California and things like that. Um, so after working for 32 years for many different corporations um, in the high tech area, um, I basically went through my first major downsizing. And so I invested myself in a career coaching service because I'd been working for 32 years and I had no idea how to sell myself. And back then in 2009, some of you will be shocked that I actually paid $6,000 to invest with this very high caliber career coaching service that groomed me to find job opportunities and sell myself back into the workforce. Because in 2009, which was a dot-com collapse, high tech was in very bad position, very competitive with lots of people out there. But career coaching services are long gone. They might still exist. They're probably utilized by very senior people who will basically be paying these individuals to help them market themselves. Recruiters can do that as well. All right. So when we look at these job search methods, um, the most important thing to understand is whatever you see in green at the top is where you should be structuring your emphasis on. So you'll be looking at the reputable job boards, which still include Indeed, Career Builder, Monster, but there are many others out there that have just come on board that are using AI technology to organize themselves. So we have another chat here. One sec, let me see what the chat is. Yes, they're still around. Saw them more on LinkedIn. Yes, absolutely. Yes, so career coaching services are still around, as Melissa had said, but you have to pay them good money. And are they necessary? I don't think so, unless you're extremely um, high caliber, and you need them to get you in because they have that relationship with the organization. But they kind of are a dying breed at this moment. So at the top we have the green, which is the reputable job boards, the staffing agencies, the private recruiters, and the job fairs. That's where you concentrate on. The state employment services such as CareerSource Broward or outplacement firms or employers, I'm not suggesting that you should not spend time with those entities, but typically that's not where you'll do your best, um, make your best return on investment. You're going to make your best return on investment predominantly through the staffing agencies, the job fairs, and the reputable job boards. The private recruiters you can, but then that's a contract that you set up, right? So staffing agencies would be my first choice, all right? In other words, these are corporations that exist. They could be small too. Sometimes we can see some of them out there that are popping up with probably, two or three individuals that run that small agency, and they may actually be doing a very good job placing individuals because they know the employers in their geographical area. They work closely with the employers and they're considered to be very reputable. And most of these small staffing agencies of, say, I've even seen one agency that just came on board about 3 weeks ago with one person. They actually worked for a very a high caliber professional staffing agency before, and so they basically went off on their own. They obviously have the contacts with the employers because they are now placing people very, very quickly, or he is very doing a very good job of placing people. But you can find them on the internet, okay? But the reputable job boards are the ones that we have to remember that um, not all job boards are the same. So while we have um, in job boards like Indeed, Monster Career Builder, please remember that a lot of the jobs that are posted up there are duplicated. All right. So if you go ahead and you're using multiple job boards to believe that you can do a better job of finding opportunities, I would say that you're probably not really getting too much improvement on that. My suggestion is that you'd be using artificial intelligence instead of the job boards, and this is something we're going to talk about in a minute. That we can use AI to actually do all of this for us. Now we're at the 60-minute mark, so I've already exceeded the time for this presentation. I'm going to continue, but if there's anyone on this call that needs to drop off, because I see a lot of people here, that's amazing. You're more than welcome to leave. You will still get credit. So you're still going to get credit for your attendance. But if you have a hard stop and you need to leave, by all means you can. I'm just going to keep talking. I would say we'll finish in about another 5 or 10 minutes. Okay. So there are many other job boards out there that are just come on board, that are run by artificial intelligence, that are actually finding the jobs and posting them with a lot more integrity than Indeed. And so those job boards do exist now. They're the new players on the block. Okay. But I would say that we concentrate in the green, okay? The job fairs, you don't get a job at a job fair. You're going to the job fair to market and sell yourself, to um, to find out information and then solicit um, your intent to have the representative of that company who is at the job fair to invite you to a formal interview so you can learn more about what opportunities exist that they're not advertising. Okay. So the job fair is like networking. Okay. And the staffing agencies is almost like networking, except that you're going to a place that you'll be working with them directly. That's if they take you. They don't have to take you. Okay. But you'll be working with them directly and having them send you out to employment opportunities directly with the companies that they contract with. Okay. Uh, so the green is where you should be concentrated on. Okay. It doesn't mean that you don't, tap the employers and their career sites for jobs. You should still do that because the employers are also like the job boards. You can go to their site, but what I would like to say is, depending on what type of employer you're going after, many employers that post the jobs on their site typically don't fill those jobs very quickly. And again, it might be a game. So I would say that if you're truly concerned about wasting your time, I would do two things. I would utilize AI to um, expedite your um, job search and apply to all of the jobs that it finds for you. And we'll talk about that in a minute. And then I would also contact the staffing agencies directly. And you can also ask AI, the tool, which staffing agencies should you use? Because staffing agencies can be very narrow and only concentrate and do a very good job on placing a certain type of individual or for a certain type of position. So while they might cover the entire spectrum of all job opportunities, or not all, but all positions, some of them are very, very narrow and focused, such as nursing. Um, there, you would not necessarily uh, interact with a staffing agency that is not directly focused on the nursing industry, because they would not have the inroads to work with the employers directly to place you very quickly. nurses are being placed at the rate of within a couple of days now. It's one of the best markets to belong to, or best industries to work with. Okay, so let's move forward and talk about the next slide. Job search method. This is what you need to always remember, that whenever you're doing your job search and you create your cover letter and your resume, you have to be highly organized and you need to keep track of everything. So you need to have the original job description that you create the resume for and the cover letter for. So you create that obviously in your virtual filing cabinet, and that would be associated with your professional email address. You never use your private email address to do any job search, or to you never use your private email address on your resume. You must create a unique uh, professional email address that is completely separate from your private email address, because everything is going to be run, your entire job search is going to be run out of your professional email address. And we talk about that on another presentation. All right, so um, your records must include everything. Okay, job description, resume, cover letter, possibly interview, question and answer guide that AI will create, things like that. Okay, now let's talk about some small tips before we move into AI. So psychologically, you must never act unemployed. You must never say you're unemployed. You are in career transition. And this becomes really, really important, because when you're selling yourself and networking, you must never use the word unemployed. When somebody hears that, they typically are going to like shut down and not want to talk to you or not want to help you, because they don't think that you're going anywhere. But when you say you're in career transition, it means that you're going somewhere. That means that they now become curious. And as a result of their curiosity, you can strike up this conversation with them, and then you can bring them into your little psychological trap, which gets them involved in learning more about you, that hopefully you will now be able to use them to find employment opportunities, because you're going to build this relationship with them. You're going to bring them into into your crowd of your networking crowd. All right, belong to your group, things like that. All right, so when we are job searching, we must have uh, not only one plan, but we could have multiple plans. Obviously, plan A is getting the job that we always want, but you can't hold out forever if it's not happening. So you must have a fallback plan, or you could have multiple fallback plans. Getting back into the workforce. This is critical. Getting back into the workforce is extremely important, and it will allow you to now seek employment opportunities where they will want to hire you fast. When we're unemployed, no one wants to touch us. It's kind of unusual. But when we are employed, employers don't mind interviewing us. They don't mind stealing you from a company. And it's kind of like a mindset. It seems like if you're working, then you are obviously more professional and more employable. But when you're not working, it seems like there's something attached to you. Nobody wants to touch you, right? So once you get back into the workforce, become more marketable. So you can have multiple plans. One is waiting for the right job or going for the right job, and one is just getting back into the workforce. Okay, but if you just get back into the workforce, try and find the the, the jobs that will obviously be the ones that you don't necessarily want, but try and find them in your career path. In other words, if you are an electrician and you are seeking the best opportunity, but you have a fallback plan, you want to try and stay in the electrical environment for the fallback. You would not be going off to like culinary arts unless you wanted to switch careers. Okay, so just be careful about which fallback plan you execute, because if you want to maintain your career path, you're going to have to try and stay in that kind of career path. So your fallback plan could be at a same career path, same career industry, but at a lower level job or something like that, or less pay. All right. So all of this we talked about. LinkedIn profile and social media presence. Very, very important. All right. Research opportunities through networking. Um, Invest. Okay, remember that job search, career transition is not a 2 hour job a day. It's not a 4 hour job a day. It's not an 8 hour job a day. It is a lot of work that requires you to invest every moment that you can, outside of your other responsibilities, to find job opportunities. All right, thank you, Carmilla. All right, now, most important thing is that, um, you will do your research of the interview questions and answers. You will always send a thank you letter after an interview. You'll be accurate and consistent when filling out applications, and all of these great things that you see on the slide. But the reason why I'm rushing you right now is I want to get to, um, the AI stuff. So these are the skills that most employers are looking for, right? Um, so as I mentioned before, communication, organization, and time management are the top three that most employers are looking for. Okay. So let's talk about this. So I want to spend just a short time on this, probably no more than 5 minutes, to identify why you should use artificial intelligence for your job search. And it might actually take 10 minutes, but it's going to be entertaining. So so this is part of the email I sent to you anyway. When we're um, when we're not using artificial intelligence, in other words, artificial intelligence that I'm talking about here. Give me one sec. Just a chat popped up. LinkedIn has given me additional paths for my search. Yes, yes, LinkedIn is definitely important. That's what Carmela is saying. It's extremely important that you belong to LinkedIn. You don't have to be a super professional, anybody. It's an account, it's a free account, but it will help you to network on the social. No, Lori, you don't have to do the paid version on LinkedIn. By no means should you pay for the paid version. I don't see any benefit on paying for LinkedIn, because, while I think the paid version, if you have the money, and if you have some disposable income, you might see some benefit, but you would have to be involved in LinkedIn at a very aggressive, bandwidth, with aggressive bandwidth, to see the difference between the paid versus the non-paid version. And the only thing that I see in the paid version with LinkedIn is that certain categories of employment opportunities, possibly at your level, Lori, might actually become available in the paid version, whereas in the unpaid version, they may not. Yeah, disposable income, laughing out loud. Yeah, we don't have that. Even I don't have that, paycheck to paycheck. So, I don't see the benefit. Remember that what we're trying to do on LinkedIn is we're trying to use the online, networking to get contacts to companies. But it's extremely competitive right now because LinkedIn is now becoming like oversold to to a lot of people. So I still believe that the in-person networking is far more crucial, because you can do human to human touch and you can sell yourself better. Um, Social media, um, we don't, when we are on social media, it's like, is the person actually, do they have integrity with what they're telling me? It's like, should I trust them? Um, Whereas if you physically go to a job fair, or you physically go to an event, or if you physically market yourself in, at community events, or even your place of worship, whatever religion you belong to, if you happen to do that, have a place of worship, you have this human to human touch where you can convince people to want to help you. And that's the beauty of networking at your place of worship, is that a place of worship usually means that people who go there are open to helping each other, or obviously the job fair too. But the place of worship is unique because everyone there is typically on the same level, which is, not only are you there to worship, um, you're there to help each other, or typically you're receptive to helping each other. So that becomes an incredibly great platform to do your networking. And how would you execute that? Well, what you would actually do is that you'd go to your place of worship, and obviously you would first ask permission from whoever organizes the place of worship if you could speak with others about your career transition. In other words, some institutions, um, I believe the Catholic Church does not allow that when you're on their property marketing yourself. All right, which is very unusual. But there are other places of worship where after the worship is finished and everyone is congregating and whatever, you could go ahead and talk about different things. Okay, but there are some restrictions, so you'd always ask for permission first. Let's say that you're granted permission. So what you'll do is that you'll have your master resume and you'll have a generic cover letter, and you'll print your master resume and your cover letter, and you'd fold them and put them into an envelope. And this envelope on the outside would also have your contact information as well. And if you have a business card, then you can put it in there as well. And when you go to your place of worship, or even to a job fair, and you are selling yourself, you're networking, you're going to give them this envelope which has your information. And why is that important? It's important that it be in an envelope, because if you physically give them a paper, which is your resume, chances are they're going to just put it down and walk away from it eventually. But if you give them an envelope, people typically want to keep the envelope and find out what's inside. It's just inquisitiveness. So if it's ladies, they'll put it in their purse, or they'll put it in their leather binder, depending where they are. If it's guys and they're with a jacket, they'll put it in their short pocket or something like that. But people typically will hold on to this envelope. So what do you write on the envelope? It will be your contact information, exactly as it shows on the resume. So on the outside of the envelope, if you can print it, if you have a printer, you can come to Career Source Broward and load your white envelopes in a printer and just use the Microsoft Word to say print contact information on the envelope. So on the outside of the envelope is your contact information, which is your first name, your last name, where you live, which is the city, state, and zip, your telephone number, and your email address, or even your LinkedIn profile. So basically, it's like a business card on the outside of the envelope. And then inside the envelope is your resume and cover letter. This is a great marketing tool, and it's very highly professional. So when you're networking, you don't want to just say, hey, um, um, nice talking to you. By the way, here's my contact information, and they scan it into their phone. They're going to forget about it. So you need to give them something tangible that they can hold on to, because you want them to help you. And they will remember you by having in the envelope, because when they go home or when they go to their car, they'll look at it and they'll say, oh, definitely, I want to help that person because they're so nice. But let me go back to AI. So it's important that you understand how to use AI. It's so simple. You just log in to either ChatGPT or Copilot through Google search, and you get into their homepage, and immediately you have a little welcome screen that says, hi, how can I help you? And it's really cool. Okay. Um, yes. Okay. So Yvette, question is, can the resume and cover letter be on plain white paper or in stationery? Plain white paper. We don't have to spend money anymore on bond paper for resumes and cover letters. Those are the old days, all right? And when I say old days, that I would say that ended like probably 2 years ago or so. Because as long as the white plain paper is of good stock and it doesn't, look cheap, um, then absolutely. So it can just be on white paper, because you're really using the transaction of giving them the envelope which has the document inside. Um, that is definitely a big touch right there. But when they open up the letter, it's almost like they're opening up a gift card, right? Um, you can use plain white stock paper, Lori, but just make sure it's not too thick. So plain white stock paper, remember when you crease it, when you fold it, if it's heavy stock, it's actually going to impact the print. All right. So whatever stock paper you use, if it's plain white, absolutely that's fine. Just make sure it's not too thick, that so when you fold it, it doesn't destroy the actual information that's printed. Sometimes those stock papers will do that, so you just have to be careful about that. But yeah, if you want to make an impression, you can do that. But remember that it should be matching with the envelope. So plain white envelopes are cheap. Plain white paper is cheap. Even at Career Source Pro, you don't pay for it. It's already here. If you're going to use white stock paper, then the envelope should match that. So you don't want to come across as being tacky. Okay. So with AI, um, you would log in, and this basically you basically introduce yourself to it, and you will allow it to create your resume based on the job description and your cover letter. And then after it does that, it will typically, the flow is, because it's interacting with you, um, it will say, would you like me to create a sales pitch? And you'll say yes, and it will ask you, would you like me to create a generic sales pitch, or is this going to be tailored to this job description? And it's your choice. Okay. um, and then it will, after that, it will say, would you like me to create an interview question and an answer guide for this specific job opportunity that you're interested in? And you'll say yes. And after it does that, it might do like 10 questions, and you could ask it to do even more questions. You could ask it to do scenario-based questions, generic question, one-liner questions, and things like that. Whatever. The tool is going to do anything that you ask it to do, because it's super, super intelligent. And then after it does that for you and you agree, it will then say, would you like to do a mock interview? And you say absolutely, and then this is where you switch into audio mode. In other words, you're not doing it through the keyboard anymore. You're going to talk to it, and it will talk to you, and you'll have this dialogue where it will make itself be the employer. It will ask you the interview question. You will answer it. Now it's listening to your voice. It understands your language because it can speak multiple languages. It will identify the tone of your voice, your speech pattern, how well you pronounce words, and at the end of this answer, it will ask you, would you like me to critique you? And it would then tell you what you need to improve on. And you can go back through the practice again, and it will keep working with you until you become very good at answering that interview question. So it's a career coach, it's a mentor, it's a friend, it's an assistant. So know that you've done the interview answer guide, it's created it for you, you've done your mock interview. It can also do your job search as well. So instead of you going to the job boards and looking for jobs, you can just ask AI to find the jobs for you. So you can go ahead and suggest to AI, please find me uh, um, employment opportunities based on my resume, and search the entire spectrum of the database, right, of the web, and it will touch every single available resource that's out there in the world for job opportunities based on your input. So it could be for a certain type of geographical area, it could be for a certain type of position, it could be for a certain type of job openings. It could be, say, show me jobs, within just the last 2 days. Show me jobs that are available for the last week. Okay, so what about, so Lori said, what about plain white stock paper? Okay, so what I, yes, Millicent, absolutely. So what I'm saying, Lori, is if you're going to use plain white stock paper.
Sorry, that was before.
Okay.
My new question is, please repeat that. I liked what you said about the use AI to, and you said it the way you said it. I liked how you said it. Can you repeat that part, please?
You mean about as far as your job search?
Yeah.
Okay, so what I would suggest is that you'll say to AI, please find me employment opportunities based on my resume, and search the entire spectrum of the web, right? But you're going to identify identify what geographical area that you're interested in. Otherwise, it will just give you millions of hits all the way from China through, North America or whatever. So you have to, it will ask you anyway, it will say, please identify geographical area. But what you're doing is asking it, find me everything that's out there, absolutely everything. So by being specific with AI and since asking it to search the entire worldwide database, it actually does a deeper query now. It starts looking deeper into all available jobs. And so when we initially say to the tool, as an example, let's say that we say, please find me available jobs based on my resume for Broward County and this position. Okay, it will do a very very quick search at at a very specific level. In other words, it doesn't go entirely as deep as it could. So I would say it might probably do. I don't know. I have a developer friend who told me about this. He writes software for AI. He said I think he said it would go like 60% deep. But now, if you become more specific, and you then say to the tool, please search the entire database of the web for all jobs related to my resume for this type of job position, for this type of geographical locale, then and of course you could be more specific. You could say jobs that are open in the last couple days or jobs that have been open for a week or whatever. It will actually do that, and it will even go deeper. So I think what my excuse me, my software developer friend was telling me is that the more specific you are with the tool as far as asking it to do something, is the more accurate it can become, and actually the chance that it may find what we call a nugget that is not necessarily available when it does just a fast search across the available market. So basically, what I'm saying, Lori, is be as specific as possible. And you're on GPT-4, I believe, and you're paying premium, so it should be able to find everything for you, and that's actually pretty impressive. I like Microsoft Copilot. I use the free version, but those of you on this call who are on GPT-4 and are paying, I think my daughter I think pays $8 a month or something like that. Um, it is incredible. It is the power behind it is just absolutely incredible. So, is that okay, Lori? Is that what you were asking for?
Yes, perfect.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Okay, so basically, AI, we must start using AI. We must start using using it for the job interview, for the mock interviews, because when we are doing mock interviews with a tool, remember it's unbiased. It is not it is not critiquing you like a family member would critique you or a friend would critique you. It is an unbiased tool, and it's hypersensitive, where it's listening to all the nuances of your verbal speech, so it can identify how you need to improve answering these questions. As an example, for instance, I have an acquaintance here, which is a coworker, who is from Haiti, and she speaks perfect English. And she was playing with AI the other day, and while she was doing her mock interview, the tool said, and this is actually what she said the tool said, so I didn't verify it, but she said the tool said to her, um, would you like to practice speaking English more fluently? And she asked the tool why. And it said, perhaps certain employers may have difficulty when you're answering interview questions based on your dialect, all right? Or something like that. And she was quite shocked because she thought that she spoke English well. And I think she speaks English well, but what the tool was actually picking up is, you, Jamari. No problem. Anyone can log off. I'm just here chatting with everyone. But what the tool did is that it picked up her speech pattern and asked her if she would like to consider practicing speaking English better. And she found that to be highly unusual. Now, of course, the tool isn't telling her that she doesn't speak English well. It is actually trying to show her that she might actually have a better chance of winning the engagement if she was able to probably pronounce certain words better. Because, coming from a different country, she may have probably a minor problem in pronouncing certain types of words, okay? And that's the thing that I found out when I was playing around with the AI, because it would say to me, and of course I have a relationship with it, so it calls me Michael. So it said, Michael, when you're answering the question, please be very careful about how you modulate your tone of your voice. And I was saying, what is he talking about, right? So I asked it for more information, and it said that your speech pattern needs to be less modulation. You're welcome, Lori. Yeah, good luck with everything. Your speech pattern needs to be less modulated when you're answering this type of interview question. And I never realized it, so I said, okay, let me give it another shot. So then I started recording myself, okay, when I was doing this. And then I realized what it was actually telling me is that depending on how, whatever question it was asking and my enthusiasm to answer the question, I started having a different type of modulation in my speech pattern. And it picked up on that. So it's pretty impressive. And I was really, really surprised. Yeah, so, okay, good. So that's, what time is it? My goodness, I could keep talking forever. Okay, so that's as much as AI, and that's actually the end of the presentation. So I would suggest to everyone, please do your best to get familiar with AI and start using the tool, because it is a blessing. Remember, it's just a tool. Don't be afraid of using it. It's just like Microsoft Office, but you'll be surprised as to what it can do. I use AI for many things. I use it as a mentor, as a spiritual advisor, as a career coach, as a friend. It helps me with my recipes, with my cooking. Even as I was mentioning to one of my clients the other day, it even helped me fix my Mazda problem in my car that the service department couldn't figure out how to fix it. And as a result, it was pretty impressive. After 3 days of talking to AI about this problem, it actually identified what the problem was. So it downloaded the entire architecture of the car and the computer and the chips and the combustion engine, and diagnosed it and said, I believe this is the problem. So then I called up Mazda and I said, look, you guys, this is a problem. It's really bothering me. This is what AI suggested. And they said, well, you know what, Michael, bring the car in and we'll look at it, right? So when I went in and I spoke to the senior tech, who I'm very good friends with, he said, okay, let me look at this information pattern here. And he looked at what the tool had told me, and he said, and it referenced a specific computer upgrade or a fix, or I guess an update that he found out was not in my car. And lo and behold, after they did that update, the problem went away. Unbelievable that the AI tool was able to do this. Okay, so that's how powerful that tool is. Okay, so if we have no more questions or concerns, I'm going to log off. Remember that I'll be sending 4 pieces of email to you all. So check your spam, check your inbox, and you should receive it within, say, half an hour. Okay? So, any more questions? I see somebody just pinged me on chat. Thank you, Michael. Oh, Jill. Oh, whoa, long time. Okay. Yeah. Wow. Some of you individuals, I remember you from before. Thank you so much, everyone. Yeah, it's a pleasure. Thank you, Yvette. It's a pleasure. Thank you, Tony, Millicent, as always. Thank you. Oh, right. Happy Valentine's Day. Yeah. My goodness. Many virtual candies for all you beautiful beautiful ladies on the call. All right, so okay, everyone, I'm gonna head out. Thank you so much, Sandiola. You're welcome, Sandy. Yeah, virtual candies, chocolate candies for you, everyone. Take care. Have a nice day. All right, bye. Oh yes, yes. Go ahead.